What's going on, guys? It's Brad from Headbangers Podcast. Today we've had Derrick from Dream Unending and also Two Mold, two very incredible bands. They've just released a split EP with Worm, which is Starpath. I'm sure you've probably listened to it already, but it is an incredible journey. And he gets to take us on that journey and explain exactly what went on, how he came to collaborate with Worm, and also just like all the influences, all the lyrics, and just like how it all came together. Incredible album. If you haven't listened to it, check it out. We also talk a bit about gaming. He's a massive gamer. Obviously, influenced the Tomb Mold name being named after Dark Souls. So yeah, check out the episode. We hope you enjoy it. If you are listening on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. If you listen on a streaming service, please leave us a rating. It does help us out in the algorithm. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome back to the Headbangers Podcast, where your hosts Nathan and Brad. Here today we're joined by Derrick from two legendary bands, Dream Unending and Two Mold. How are you doing, man, to start off with?
I'm doing good, man. How are you guys?
Yeah, good man. Good.
Yeah, doing amazing. So
Glad.
let's start off with a little icebreaker on this show. What's your funniest gig or tour story that you can recall?
Funniest gig story or like worst gig story? Could you
Sometimes they go
like?
hand in hand, so you can give us both or you can pick your
Well,
favorite.
okay. I think worst gig, worst show I've ever played. Like personally, we were doing a show in Oakland, California. It was an awesome bill. It was us, this death metal band called Mortuous, who are just terrific, and this other band called Mork. But during our set, right in the beginning of the first song, I broke a string. And the way we were playing our sets at the time, we would play like two songs, just like one after another into the next, and then we'd have like a short break, like play something off a sampler so we could tune up and whatnot. So I think the two songs we were playing were off the Two Mold record, Planetary Clairvoyance, and I think they were, oh geez, Infinite Resurrection and the title track, which I think combined makes for like 9 minutes maybe of music. So in my head, I'm like, I have to get through the next 9 minutes without my high E string. So I'm like, all right, I'm playing riffs and I'm thinking about how am I going to play my solos? I'm way too stoned at this gig. So I'm like going, just the gears it's bad. I can feel like everything falling apart in my head. And I somehow get through it and we get to the first break, and the venue was so dark I could not see a thing, and I was like calling for a bandmate to like grab a phone and like flash a light. So I was using a guitar with like a Floyd Rose bridge, so I needed to find an Allen key to unlock the bottom, to get the thing out, to put a new string in. It was horrible, and I don't remember the rest of the set. I like blacked out. I played it allegedly, but like I couldn't tell you what we played. I couldn't tell you if it was good or not, and that was the worst show experience. Now, and especially it's tough because I'm left-handed. So if I break a string, no one's got a backup guitar for me, right?
Oh yeah,
Oh
that
wow.
must be so shit.
Yeah. So now if we have to go anywhere, any show I play, I take two guitars. And that's exactly why. Because you just never know what's gonna happen, right? Oh, that sucked so hard, man.
I was gonna say like breaking the string is bad enough, but like
Oh yeah.
left-handed guitar as well.
Oh yeah.
Like
It's
it's an
just
instant. Every band's like, I can't help you, bro.
no one. Yeah. It's like it's like I wish I could, but I can't. Sort of scenario. Funniest show. I'm trying to think. Like you know, one of the I don't know if it was a funny show, but it was a fun show. We played a show here in Toronto. We didn't play it till 3 a.m, and whoever was doing lights for the gig just had strobes going constantly, and I was so into it. I was like, this is so sick because it makes everything look slow motion when you're playing, and because it looks slow motion, I felt like I could just process things slower, and I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm playing so good because it's the songs aren't coming to me as fast. It's all illusion, right? But then I remember after the set, my bandmates were like, don't, no one should ever do that during our set again. I think if it definitely messed with them, and for me, I was like, oh, this is like so sick.
Is everything just like slower then?
Pardon me?
was everything just like slower then for you? Like, you know,
It just
all the
felt,
songs just
yeah,
playing slower.
it just felt like it just looked slower. Like it, it looked like I was playing in slow motion, but everything was happening in real time. It was great, but I guess I wouldn't recommend it for everybody, apparently.
I'd tell you what, strobe lights at shows, like, great, but also like if you overuse it. I remember like if you're in the crowd.
Yeah.
I remember being at one show where they had it on like that constantly all the way through. I felt like, like the Futurama, the toad that like
Oh, yeah,
hypnotoad.
yeah.
I was like, I remember being like halfway through the set just thinking, "Fuck, my eyes are
Oh,
killing." now."
incredible. Can you think of a show that you've been to where you were like, this is the best lights I've ever seen at a gig? Can you think of one?
Ooh. I tell you what,
I've
I think,
actually got one, to be fair, and it's not really a metal show, but like when I went to go
It's
watch
all right.
the Prodigy when I was like, must have been
Ooh,
about 15. They were playing a place in the UK called the Victoria Warehouse in Manchester, and like that's like a big venue, but like all the
yeah.
lights were so like so hooked up and so in tune with the music, and like there's so many different types of lights as well. Like it just felt like it immersed into a whole nother world of watching them.
Hell yeah. Yeah, not metal, but I mean any big show like that usually has like pro light job. But for me, like I've seen that jam band Fish a number of times, and the lights for them, it's like their light person is like the fifth member of the band. You know what I mean? Like they're constantly like they move up and down, they spin and everything. So like everybody there is on acid, right? So it's just like the greatest thing ever. But yeah, lights at a show are awesome. It's the one thing that kind of sucks when you're playing like smaller venues or mid-sized venues, like you can't take a lighting rig out on the road with you, right?
oh yeah,
But it's so cool.
I think like the coolest one I saw was probably Tool. Like just
Oh
'cause in
yeah,
terms
I
of
can.
display and lights together, you're like, oh my
Oh,
god.
totally. I can see that for sure. That
Yeah, the
rules.
entire set, I don't think I looked at the stage once. I think I was just looking at the screens, just like, fuck, that looks amazing. Like, the entire
Yeah,
time.
terrific.
I want to get into Starpath because I absolutely
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
love it. It's the perfect
Oh
blend
yeah,
of like death metal, black metal, doom, just about anything under the sun that you can sort of think of.
yeah.
How did the idea of doing the split first like come into fruition for you guys?
Yeah, so I guess around the time the Dream Unending record Song of Salvation was coming out, and that was 2022 November. So it's been a year. It was a year ago on the weekend actually. Around that time, the band Worm had that EP Blue Nothing come out, and I had already had a relationship with Phantom Slaughter from that band, kind of going back to the first Dream Unending record. That was around the time he was putting out his first record on 20 Buck Spin, which was his second LP, for Everglade. And we got to talking, just liked each other's work. He was a Tomb Mold fan too. And, we found a sort of like kinship, even though our bands didn't sound anything like each other. It was sort of, we both like the same stuff or the same genre. We're both doing doom music, but we're trying to put our own unique interpretation. Like we're trying to, do something different with it. Without like, but I don't think either of us are like really like puffing our chests out being like, oh yeah, we're really reinventing the wheel. It was like it's a more personal thing for us. But, so around the time we were talking to each other, oh, congrats on Blue Nothing and congrats on Song of Salvation. I think I just said like, yo, like Worm Dream Unending split. Who says no? And he was like, oh yeah. Like we would totally do it. And I was like, okay. It was like, but like when you're in a band, you meet other bands and you like each other. It's very common for the two people to be like, we should do something sometime, whether it's a tour or a gig or anything, right? So when he was like, yeah, we'll do it. I'm like, okay, but like, we're actually going to do it. And like, I went immediately, we talked to Dave Adelson, who runs 20 Buck Spin. And we're just like, do you want to do a split record? And he was like, sure, man, like whatever you guys want. So I was like, all right, great. And around that time, so that was November of 2022. And we recorded, me and Justin, who does drums and vocals in Dream Unending, we did our side in January of 23. So only 2 months after, like, we kind of came up with the idea. So for context, by that point, by the time I asked him if he wanted to do the split record, Worm, I had already had kind of bits and pieces of the two songs that make up the Dream Unending sides, So Many Chances and If Not Now When. But then having a sort of deadline, or at least like a goal, kind of like gets my ass in gear a little bit to be like, okay, I gotta like finish these songs. And those ones, I definitely, it was fun. It was fun because I don't mean to keep rambling, but
no, go for it, man.
you know, in my head, like, you know, when you talk to people about the Dream Unending records, they're like, oh, it's like this whole, you know, it's like you built a whole world. It's like it tells a story. It's a whole vibe, whatever you want to say. And I'm like, yeah, that's like sort of the idea. Like they're very cinematic in the execution. And I was thinking, I was like, how do I do what we do on an LP, but only in half the time, right? So it's like, okay, I've got 23-ish to 25-ish, if I'm really pushing it, minutes to try to convey something that we normally get 40 to 45 minutes to convey. So then you're like, okay, well, I was like, I kind of knew it was like, it's going to be 2 songs, but I was like, okay, they have to be, one, they have to be good, but 2, this, you know, the best splits for me are, or at least when 2 bands, I don't want to hear the same band on both sides of a split. Do you know what I mean? Mm. So I was like, all right, well, I can see the direction that Worm is going in, especially with Blue Nothing, a lot more black metal in the sound. You know, Phantom brings on Phil Tugas to do all those crazy, like, you know, shrapnel record style guitar solos. And I love Phil. And I was like, okay, so their record is going to have a lot of that. And I'm like, you know, and that's not my thing. Not my thing because I can't play like that. So it's like, you know, I go for a different sort of guitar playing. So it's like, okay, well, then we need to really push our sound out somehow. So, you know, I definitely thought about how we would approach clean sections, how I didn't want to do, you know, I wanted to get a little bit away from some of the more like gothy tinged elements of the 2 LPs. And I wanted to do something a little brighter and a little bit more different, maybe like a little bit more mysterious sounding. So, you know, we get that first clean section in So Many Chances, which has like just this sort of arpeggiating chord progression, and then like a clean guitar solo comes in and transitions to a heavy one. So it was like I was building an instrumental song within a larger song. And I just kept trying to throw different shit at the wall and try to, you know, I always like to try to keep the listener guessing what's going to happen next. So then with that song, you know, we do, you have this heavy part, this big clean part, and then this other heavy part. And I kind of broke it up into my mind of like, I wanted the first part of So Many Chances, that those heavy riffs, it was sort of like a callback to how I played on Tide Turns Eternal. It was sort of like riffs I really liked from Tide that I didn't do on Song of Salvation. I was like, oh, I want to get back to that a little bit. And then like the next heavy section that comes out of the clean is more of the like the way I played on Song of Salvation. So it was very conscious of like these things. They're not things that like anybody would really consider, but in my mind I was like, oh, I'm achieving my goal, so to speak. But then I was like, wouldn't it be great at the end of the song if it just felt like another song started as part of the song? And then that's when we get that acoustic guitar comes in with the drums and that solo. And then our friend Phil Swanson, who sang a little bit on Song of Salvation, we brought him back to do some clean singing on the end of So Many Chances. And I love that song, man. Like that song to me is like, it's probably my favorite song I've ever written for anything. And like, even considering Two Mold and all that, that one is like, I don't know why. I hang my hat on it. Yeah, thank you. It was so much fun to write and to make and like kind of see it all get built together. Like it was terrific. And it was also fun to like tell Justin that like in the middle of the song he would have to use like shakers and stuff like for percussion and whatnot, like stuff he's, you know, rarely done, especially in a lot of the bands he's played in. So it's fun to like kind of push him further out of his like comfort zone and whatnot. But then we have this song, So Many Chances, with all this like clean and like more gentler stuff. So I was like, if not now, when needs to be like the song that's just full of heavy riffs. You know what I mean? So that one, like it's clean at the end, but you have to get through, I think like 9 or 10 minutes of like just heavy guitars. And then that's when I got to like dig into like, you know, I love bands like, I love, you know, King's X. Do you guys know King's X? They're like,
I don't think so.
So they're sort of like alternative rock band, kind of hard rock from the 80s going into the 90s. But if you listen to their early records, you'll understand where or like what band guys like in Alice in Chains and Pearl Jam were listening to. There's a lot of that like proto grunge riffs, like but like the heavier side of grunge. And so there's a couple like real like King's X worship riffs in that song, and then but yeah, just a lot of like big heavy parts. And then I got to like rip like a big epic solo in that one, and that was like fun. But yeah, I wanted the two songs I wanted them to really be contrasted from each other. You know what I mean? I didn't want to do the same thing twice, because that would have kind of sucked too, right? If I had like taken the blueprint of So Many Chances and tried to replicate it, you would have just had like a worse version of that song, and then that kind of would have been a drag. So I tried to, I consciously like kind of tried to balance out the more like clean exploratory stuff with like just like the heavy, like awesome riffs that like kind of just punch you in the gut or like tug at your heartstrings or something.
Oh yeah,
that's sort of my thing.
It definitely shows, because like me and Brad were both talking about it, like like before we came on. And like it's fucking great. Like there's so many dynamic elements to it where you're like, oh my god, there's so much to unpack in just like obviously 2 songs from yourselves and then 2 songs from Worm. So it's like so much to unpack where you're like, oh my, there's so much thought put into it, and you can tell. It's crazy, because like you also answered like one of my questions on like the EP, because I noticed that with the songs, that it switches bands, but like it doesn't feel like it's lost momentum or like vision. Like that's what's crazy about it.
For sure.
Very rare for a split to do that. And I just wanted to know, was it something that you both like the vision of what you wanted to do for it on each side? Was that something you talked about, or was it just a gradual?
I think like I can't remember how I would have explained to Worm like what we were doing, but I just was like, I think I might have said at some point that like, oh yeah, the last 4 minutes of this song sounds like the Eagles or something. It's just to like kind of mess with them a bit. But I think what we both knew that we weren't going to slouch on it. It was sort of like a mutual, like without saying to each other, we need to bring our A game. We both knew we needed to bring our A game. Like not in like a competitive way, but just like, we need this to be sick, especially because, it's funny because like I'm a big fan of making full length records. I love making tapes with Tomb Mold, like in between full length records. But the idea of an EP, I always get I find them intimidating because, nobody is ever like, what's your favorite EP of all time, right? Like people, when they want to talk about their favorite records, you're mostly talking about full lengths, right? So full lengths just have more weight to them. So if we're doing a split LP, like a split LP might be like a real throwaway idea for a lot of people. And I wanted it to be something, I think we both wanted to be something where you heard it and it was like, this is not a throwaway record. Like these aren't leftover songs or anything like that. Like this is, something made for this. Like it was, had all the intention in the world kind of thing. Right. And I knew that like, yeah, and I just knew that Worm was going to bring it, and we needed to bring it, but we needed to bring it in a different way than they would, right? Because like that's the thing is, and I love how the album cover turned out by Mark Riddick. It's like a perfect,
so good.
It's like
it's so
perfect,
good, man.
It explains perfectly because you get the dude from like the 2 Dream Unending records, looking down at like the kind of the Reaper character from the Blue Nothing EP, and it kind of looks like one of those old like Mortal Kombat like versus screens, like before
just about to say that,
where you can
like
punch in the code. Yeah, and it's so sick. And what was so nice about that too is like me and Phantom from Worm, we both meticulous guys, especially with just look like detail oriented, and especially in the music. But he is more so detail oriented than me in like the kind of aesthetics department. I typically, when we have to do a record or lay out a record or whatever, we work with whoever artist is working on the album cover. But then when it comes to layout and stuff, I usually just we have the same guy do our layout all the time, but I usually just am like, whatever you think works, like just show me and I'll probably approve it. I like to give, if you're working with creative people, you want to give them some freedom to like, express themselves in a way, even if it's through layout, but like still. But with Worm, he's like 10 steps ahead, right? So he's just like, I want the insert to look like this. Here's some reference material, blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, yo, just go with it. Like, it's sort of like how Justin from Dream Unending, after we did the first record, he'll tell people, yeah, the thing I really learned was just to get out of Derrick's way and like let him cook. And I know it'll turn out okay. And with me, like, especially with stuff like layout and all that, I was just like, yo, like whatever you want, like just go for it. I just, at this point, I just really like making songs. Like I like writing songs, I like recording, I like playing, and everything else. I just kind of trust the people who will know better than me. Two Mold is like that too. Like you look at like the layout, the artwork. Like I helped. I helped suggest the artwork, but I have no real like say in it. I was just sort of like whatever you guys want. Like I've learned being in bands, the less I can do, the better, or like the less I assert myself, the better. I want people to feel like we are all on equal footing, so to speak, with, decision making and input and all that. But I also recognize that typically, I'm the one coming with all the songs written, right? So that by default kind of just like I'm just imprinting more of myself on it than they even have a chance to from the jump. So then with everything else, I just sort of lean back. I like picking track listing and I like writing songs. Those are my two favorite things. I like playing shows, but that's different.
So how did you guys agree on? So obviously, like, you and Worms got together, you created this masterpiece. What about like the lyrical content and like the overall themes of like what would be covered? Like, was that an agreed thing, or was that like just kind of like you kind of made it together in the end? Like Worm would create their lyrics, you guys would create yours, and then you'd sort of think about the overarching story after that.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually don't know any of Worm's lyrics for the split. Because they don't ever print their lyrics in the record. I don't know if you noticed that, but we print ours in the insert. But when it comes to lyric writing within Dream Unending, we never actually talked about lyrical themes. I think kind of Worm knew what we were about and was just like, go with it. With Dream Unending, like a lot of our songs are about like the soul and like freedom, personal freedom, like setting yourself free, looking for joy and meaning in life, and talking about love and just kind of stuff like that. So these songs just felt like a sort of natural continuation. Now Justin writes the lyrics, but anything you hear on Dream Unending records that's either sung clean or spoken, I write that stuff. That's sort of the division there. And sometimes even I'll have something written for a song months before Justin even starts writing his lyrics, but he'll take that and kind of look at it and be like, okay, like, I'll work with this. Sometimes I might just even give him a song title and he'll just build it from there. If it's something that I don't have any hand in, which is also fun. I know some other bands do that. I was listening to an interview with, the guitar player Cody from this, band Afterbirth, who are from the States, really awesome death metal band. And he was saying he would just give the vocalist just like the song titles and be like, do what you want with it, and kind of like just build it out of that, which is interesting. But yeah, like I think with ours it's a lot more of that. I mean, the thing about metal, extreme metal especially, you can't assume that everyone's going to read the lyrics that you write, and they can't understand them if they're super guttural, right? Like, even the most trained ear can't decipher all of the lyrics. But with clean vocals or spoken parts, you have a chance to really convey what you're trying to convey. So we're super conscious of that. So like so many chances, I think the clean vocals kind of like sort of communicate like what our songs are about. I think that on the other records too. And so many chances just about exactly that like every day is like a new day to get up and try something, fail at something, succeed at something, right? Whatever it is, whether it's like you're trying to write a song or you're like trying to meet a girl, who knows, right? But like I think it's like every hit, every miss, infinite bliss, so many chances. I feel like that kind of just says it all right there. And Worm's such a dark sounding band that I thought, we talked about like the idea of like Dream Unending having this lightness and sort of the two worlds kind of meeting. So, it was important, not important, but like definitely considered that like we should keep that lightness there and convey that lightness somehow. So
Yeah. So he's got that like yin and yang sort of vibe on the album.
for
Like it
sure,
starts off
for sure.
like when you say about like the soul searching thing, like when I listen to it, it feels like you're on this journey through space or something. And like it
Yeah.
starts off like really good, it's like positive vibes, and then like Worm comes in, and then it's just like, oh, I guess everything's gone to shit now. But yeah, you didn't
Yeah,
find your
for
soul
real.
being destroyed.
Yeah, for real. Like it's definitely, yeah, it's funny how the two sides work, especially if you're listening to it on a record, if not now when, it kind of has this really soft fade out, just like these kind of ambient guitars kind of dying out. And it's really nice. And then you'll flip the record and you're just immediately like hit with like the first riff of that Worm side, and it's awesome. Like it's such a holy shit. Like it's because it feels like a different record, but it's not, and it makes sense. Like it was just great.
It's a
It
journey for
worked
sure.
out. Yeah, it really worked out, which was awesome. Sometimes you know you have to have faith, obviously, but like you just never know. That's like the beauty of making records, is like you're really venturing into the unknown. You can be as prepared as possible, but still like things will change on you, right? Or like, you could be so sure that you're making something good and maybe it's not. And like that pressure is good, I think. Like, it's good to have high stakes, or like set high stakes for yourself. I think that's why the Dream Unending Worm split works so well, because we both set the bar so high and we're like, we have to clear it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and I think for me, when I listened to it, it was so like it felt like a full circle moment, because it's a weird it's a tangent, but my friend James, I discovered both Worm and Dream Unending through him. So
Oh yeah.
like the fact that you did a split together, I was there like, oh, James is gonna fuck it. I haven't actually asked him about
Oh,
about the
okay,
split
yeah.
yet, but I
Yeah, yeah,
remember
yeah.
just listening like both. It brought me back to like being at his house and him being like, "You ever listen to Worm?" I'm like, no, and then immediately pulling out like
Oh, that's
Worm
awesome,
records and be
man.
like, put that on, and then like immediately pulling out Dream Unending, sorry, but
Yeah, it's all right.
putting that on, and I was like, fucking. I remember just like when I saw that you did a split, I was like, I'm so ready.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a
nobody saw that
lot of
collab coming.
yeah, like a lot of people were pumped, which was cool. I'm so bad at knowing, like, I don't read reviews of records that I make anymore. I only really know when people directly reach out to me if they like something. So it's so hard for me to be like, do people like this? So I asked my bandmate from Tomb Mold, my bandmate Payson, I was like, do people like the Dream Unending Worm Split? He's like, yes. I was like, oh, great. Okay, cool. But I was like, yeah, like I think I know a lot of people initially were like, um, like it was like surprise, yet they were like, this makes so much sense for these two bands, because we managed to just like kind of become spiritually linked for a lot of people, just like you're saying, right? Like, and that maybe that's just like release time for the last couple records and stuff like that, and both just like trying to be an innovator without being an innovator of like the death doom genre. um it's funny, like, I think sometimes it's tricky, because when we try to do a very distinct style of death doom with Dream Unending. We call it Dream Doom, which is kind of funny, but um it's never to put down like traditional death doom music. It's kind of like the reason we do it the way we do it is because like I don't think I could write a traditional death doom song and have it be good. Like I think it's harder to do that than to do what we do, because you have to be good at it. And I feel like uh my own fear of like boring a listener is like why we are constantly like chasing new parts and new ideas in Dream Unending songs. It's sort of like you look at Song of Salvation and like those big long songs like the title track and Ecstatic Rain, they're like 14 and 16 minutes each, but very rarely does anything ever repeat, right? Like we almost just treat it like it's progressive music, but it's just very slow, you know what I mean? And not full of like angular riffs. And then what's funny is like you listen to that new Tomb Mold record and there's like no slow riffs, right? And that's because it's like, well, I write all my slow riffs for Dream Unending now, so I can only write like fast riffs for Tomb Mold.
But that kind of like that really leads into like the next question I've got for you as well, because like from listening to both your bands, like it's so like clear that both of the bands that you're in have taken the mold of extreme metal and really shown that, like, oh no, you don't have to just pull from metal. You can put in absolutely anything in there and do the complete opposite of what the mold is.
For
And
sure.
what is it that you sort of pull from? What are some of the inspirations that you listen to and go, I want that to be into, like, that sort of vibe to be in Tomb Mode. I want this to be in Dream Unending.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, like that goes hand in hand with also just becoming a better songwriter and like a better just like musician, right? Like the better you get at your instrument, like the more possibilities you have, right? The more you learn about music, the more you can pull from, but also just listening to music in general. But the thing with Tumult and same with Justin from Dream Unending is like we're not metal people, we're just music people. You know what I mean? Like we can be in the car and we could listen to Defeated Sanity and be like, great. And then we could throw on like Steely Dan record and be like, also great. And then we could throw on like, the second Jimmy Eat World LP and we'd be like, this is also great. It's just like we love everything. So then you just want to, you just want to throw everything in a blender sometimes and not really worry about it, suffer the consequences later, and just be like, we just want to make music that feels true to us. You know what I mean? So if it's like, if we like all these things, like, why can't we do it all at once? It really reminds me of, I don't remember where they're from, but there's a metal band, a contemporary metal band. They're called Chapel of Disease. And they put out an LP a few years back before the pandemic hit. And it's got all these parts that sound like Dire Straits. And one person might be like, oh my God, why would they do that? And then, the big brain person is like, oh yes, they've melded Dire Straits with death metal and it's perfect. You know what I mean? Like, and I love like the ambition behind doing that, the intention, and just like the risk. Like, when you make music that's a little left of center in any genre, like you are opening yourself up to, potential backlash in any which way. Music and life in general is a very damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario, right? So with a band like Tumult, for example, if we had come back and we had made a record that sounded just like our last record, some people would be like, this is great, but most people are like, oh, they did the same thing, right? Then you make a record that sounds different, and you might have some people who are like, well, they changed too much. But it's like, well, it's just the natural part of growth, right? Like, I'm gonna be 35 next month, and like the person I am now is not the person I was when I was working on Planetary Clairvoyance, and neither are my bandmates, right? So it's just, to me, music on a very, very personal level, like when you are making music constantly, in many ways, the music you make kind of becomes the story of your life, because you can look at all these things you did and you're like, I can remember everything happening in my life this record came out in 2019. I remember that, or like 2021 or 22 or 23, whatever. Like there's so many, like it becomes maybe just for yourself autobiographical. That's why I love reading interviews when like bands talk about making records and like everything that was happening during the process. You gain a deeper knowledge and understanding of why that record might be the way it is, right?
Oh yeah.
It's so fun. It's so enriching. But um, so then so we just, for myself, like I just love all sorts of music, right? And if I can't make it in, if I can't, like, if I love a band like the Grateful Dead and I can't find a way to fit it into, I can fit a little bit of into the Dream Unending, because we can just have like jam sections almost, and we do at the end of So Many Chances, like we just vamp on like this, like chord progression for like 3 minutes, and it's terrific. But it's like, oh well, then I'll just start another band to like channel this interest, right? And that's like the beauty of making music, is like you just have to do it. I don't know why people don't. Well, maybe they don't care, but for me, like, yeah, if we like something and we want to work it into our band, like we'll just do it, and not really worry about it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I completely relate to that, because like
Yeah.
I've done music now for like 4 years, and I always say to Bradley, like, if I'm not trying to do something music related, I just go insane.
Oh yeah,
And
for
like,
sure.
if you try,
Like,
and it's like, as well as just like, I'm like just trying to add more stuff to what it is, like what you're writing, because it's I agree with the sentiments. Like, I'll start another band that I want it to sound like this, because I start like new bands because I'm like, well, I've got this idea, but I don't think I want to put it into this band. Yeah,
For
I mean,
sure.
it's like I've got the one that I'm writing for at the moment. I'm like, I just want it to be ignorant mosh music, like.
Sure.
So I don't. So like, it's like that was the idea for that, and now I was like, okay, this one is a bit more artistic. I'm gonna have to start a new one for that, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it feels like, you get that inspiration, you just got to run with it.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Like it's, it'd be very hard to try to sell to like a crowd of people who like mosh music. Like, hey, okay, we're gonna play mosh music, but then for like 6 minutes, we're just gonna have a clean break. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
that's the thing. Yeah,
because then
like,
I'm like, what the fuck do I do? I can't hurt people during this.
well, that's the thing. Like, I have like, because I will listen to so much. I'll
Mhm.
go, okay, like, this is something that I'd like to do
Yep.
musically as well. And
Yep.
it happens to be, I listen to a lot of just like very basic, just dun, 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 do you know what I mean? And it's like,
Sure.
I
Yeah.
like it. Like,
Oh yeah.
but yeah, it's just one of those things. I completely agree with that sentiment. It's like, if like, why people don't just do music, just do it, because you
Yeah.
end up having so much fun with it.
Well, yeah, it is fun, and it's just like, the journey of making something is like usually the most rewarding part, right? It's kind of like, when people get mad about people who flip records, or how records are treated after they come out. Like for me, like the moment a record comes out, I claim no ownership over it. At that point, it belongs to the listener, right? And it belongs the listeners. If you're lucky to have multiple people listen to your stuff, and that's like, I find that a very like freeing thing to do, because it's sort of, it prevents me from sort of resting on my laurels. It's like, okay, well, if I don't have this anymore, I gotta have to come up with something new. And then the joy though is the journey, right? Like the from whether it's like the first riff you write for a record to finishing that record in the studio, hearing it mixed and mastered, and hearing all of these other people who have sort of left their own imprint on it, right? Because you can do as much as you want on your own, but you're nothing without the people around you. So, even with like the Dream Unending record, like those two songs, like when Justin goes to record his drums, he does it with Arthur Rizek, who also mixes and masters our stuff. But Arthur will take on like a producer role with Justin, and workshop drum ideas with him and whatnot. So it's sort of like, he has just as much of like a right to ownership of those songs as I do, or as Justin does, right? But then I have my guy Sean Pearson, who is an engineer up here in Canada that I work with, and all the Two Mold records are recorded with him. He's helped me dial in all my sounds and stuff. He's got as much input. If he doesn't think something sounds good, he'll be like, we should work on this sound or something, right? Um, so like right there is like a couple more people. They become like unofficial band members. You know what I mean? And then you give someone your record to make an album cover based on it, and then they have just as much of a stake in it, right? And there's I've never worked with an artist who was just like didn't like the music you're making. I don't know what that'd be like. Like I've had people turn down working with me because they didn't like my concept, but I've never like had someone like design an album cover and then be like, yeah, this record kind of sucks, but like here's your album cover. But like they're putting themselves out there just as much by like association, right? So it becomes a bigger picture of like, you want to do right by all these people that are helping you, and then that kind of raises the stakes of trying to write songs that are good, or trying to come prepared, or trying to do something that will leave an impression. And yeah, that's the joy of making music or anything, right? Like if it wasn't hard, or if it wasn't challenging, like there'd be no fun in it, right? Like, so anyways, I don't mean to like keep waxing poetic about making records, but
No. We enjoy it. Don't worry. I wanted to kind of jump onto the point you made earlier. Like, when you
Sure.
write Dream Unending, like, when you go back into Two Mold after, like, you feel like you've all those slow chuggy riffs, like you feel like, okay, that's in Dream Unending. We've done with that now. We'll
Yeah.
speed this things up a bit for Two Mold. Do you ever feel like you get influence from either band into the other? So like,
Well,
certain like avant-garde stuff, maybe like Dream Unending might make its way into Two Mold, or do you feel like you always keep your two separated?
no, I mean like we definitely, when Tumult put out that the tape Aperture of Body last year, I want to say. We knew that people would draw a Dream Unending parallel because we had a clean section closing out a song, but it was kind of like it was kind of a what do you expect moment, because it was like, well, it's the guy in both bands, so if, like, you know, of course there's going to be like bleed like in between the two, but what makes it fun is like the clean parts in Two Mold, they have such a different flavor because of Max and Payson, my two bandmates, right? And that's what makes them very different to me, even though it's like, you know, it's the same source material in a way because it comes from me, but then how they interpret it and put their own spin on it makes it unique, right? And it'll be funny because like Justin from Dream Unending, when he heard the new Two Mold record, he was like, oh man, I'm jealous of those clean sections you guys have. And I was like, yeah, but like you would never play drums like that over this clean section, you know what I mean? Like that's why it's a Two Mold part. Like and it's fun. But you know, when I was working on those Two Mold songs that make up the new record, The Enduring Spirit, a lot of that I had initially drafted in 2020. I wrote those like 3 years ago while I was working on the first Dream Unending record, Tide Turns Eternal. So I had found myself enjoying writing clean parts, becoming comfortable with it, and being like, I want to do this in Two Mold. I know the guys won't be mad about it. So that's kind of like how it started. But then, you know, we workshop those parts as a band. And, you know, so, you know, and like in the last song on the Two Mold record, The Enduring Spirit of Calamity, like we have this huge clean break, and it starts with me doing some kind of Miami Vice guitar solo, and then the song really opens up and Payson does this more patiently building guitar solo. It's kind of like, reminds me of like David Gilmour, but my bandmate, and like those kind of flavors. Like I enjoy that because it to me it doesn't sound like Dream Unending because it sounds like my bandmates in Two Mold, right? So I don't. But you know, it's funny is those two guys, Payson and Max, they have a side project called Daydream Plus. So I always joke, it's like, what was the joke? I was like, everybody has to have a dream in their band name because I have Dream Unending and they have Daydream Plus. So sometimes we'll call like a clean part like the Daydream Unending part or something because it's like the two worlds colliding. And then like it's really fun for me, and it's fun for them too. I'd like to think. But so there's definitely crossover, and sometimes even like I might have a riff that I might initially workshop for Dream Unending and be like, oh, it doesn't work, but maybe it'll work for Two Mold. You know what I mean? You know, because like a couple songs as we were learning them got edited or rewritten sections, and I think one part actually came from like an idea I had for Dream Unending, but I was like, oh, it doesn't work. So I think it ended up becoming kind of like the middle section of the song Will of Whispers off the new Two Mold record, which is like this like big clean
that's
section.
my favorite song off the new album.
Yeah, that seems to be everybody's favorite song.
Yeah, I've noticed that. It's just so good, man. I don't know what to say.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it is a good song. My favorite song off the record, I think, is the song after it, Fate's Tangled Thread. But I think that one I love because that one just has like 3 minutes of me and Payson trading guitar solos, and that's very entertaining for me. Like I love listening to it, and I love like how bright that song ends. It has like such a, just makes me want to like run through a brick wall. Like it's so good. But I also I tend to love every song off that Two Mold record, so it's hard for me to pick.
Obviously, we talked about your music. I know, like, obviously that you're a massive gamer, and some of that fed into Two Mold as well, with like, the name being after an item in Dark Souls.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, if you could be trapped in a game world, what do you think would be the worst game world to be trapped in, and what do you think would be the best?
Oh, the worst one would be Bloodborne, right? Like you're just in like a plague-ridden, H.P. Lovecraft-laden world. Like that would suck so hard, man. As far as a new game, or as far as the opposite of that, I've been playing this game this year that came out called Dave the Diver. Have you heard of it?
No.
I think I've seen like one or two like videos on it, but I haven't played it.
It's one of the best games that came out this year. I don't know if you guys remember if you ever played Stardew Valley, which was sort of So imagine like kind of the vibe of Stardew Valley, except you run a sushi restaurant and every day you have to go diving for fish to get this like to fuel your sushi restaurant. But there's like kind of these side plots along the way, and you're like fulfilling quests and stuff like that. And like that game, like if I could live that life where I just went diving every day to catch fish and then ran a restaurant at night, I think that would be really sick. Um, yeah, so that would be my pick as like good world to live in. That or like, I don't know, like some world from Super Mario 64, right? Like something like that.
Yeah, sounds
I-
peaceful.
Yeah.
I mean, like minus like Bowser. If the
Oh,
thing is,
yeah.
if you're not Mario in those games, nothing is a problem for you.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, for sure.
It's like, you know what? It's like,
That's
it
true.
sucks to be Mario, but
Yeah,
I'm
like if you're not
chilling.
Mario, you're chilling. Yeah, for sure.
Like,
Totally,
Kicking back
man.
and relaxing in the Mushroom Kingdom, you know what I mean? Not have
Fuck
to worry
yeah.
about anything else.
For real.
yeah, definitely. I'd say I really need to get my PC fixed because like I've just been using I've just been using console since it died. Like,
Oh yeah. No, I'm a PC gamer and I have a pretty good setup right now, but it's funny like earlier today and yesterday I started playing Alan Wake 2 that just came out.
Oh, I want to play the first one. It's just some game series I'll completely miss, but I've just heard so many great
Yeah.
things.
Well, the first one it was on Xbox 360 only and maybe PC at the time, but if you were like a PS3 player or just a PlayStation player in general, you weren't getting it, right? Now it's on every platform. I would highly recommend the first game. It's remastered. It's a lot of fun. The new game, like, I don't know what its problem is. I mean, I guess it's only like a week or two old, but it's still like kind of like broken on my computer. Like a lot of textures don't load properly, and it just looks like half the characters in the game at any point will look like Grand Theft Auto Vice City or something. Like no detail on the face, just like polygonal shapes. And even on PC running like at a like, good performance rate, like it still like runs like shit. And I'm just like mystified. It always boggles my mind when big developers can't get their game to work like within the first couple days. Like, like day one patches are really common now, like big patches. Like I remember Elden Ring had a huge day one patch. But for the most part, like, when Elden Ring came out, that game ran for me. Like I didn't have many issues,
Yeah, I don't
just
have
like
any issues either.
a couple little like just like screen dropouts here and there, but nothing game breaking. And like I don't know if that game's maybe only ever crashed on me once or twice, but like well, did you guys remember when like Cyberpunk 2077 came out and that was
Oh,
just
yeah.
How could I forget?
So
dude,
Brad
that-
pre-ordered it, and I cried with laughter when it was broken because
Oh my God.
I got burned, and I never pre-order anymore. And like Brad was like, I can't believe it don't fucking work. Like,
No,
Dude.
it actually works fine for me, to be fair.
well,
Like,
yeah,
for-
no, it was
now-
Callum. It was our friend
Yeah, it was
Callum. That
Callum.
it were burned.
Yeah. For me, it was completely fine. Like, I don't know, I had it on PS5 and it seemed to be okay, but I think I got lucky.
we have a song in that game, Tomb Mold does, right? And I
I
remember
know
like
that. Yeah.
that song's so funny. Like we wrote it in an afternoon and recorded it a day later, and like asked Arthur Rizek, was like, "Hey, we have this song. Like, we'll pay you whatever you want. Can you just like whatever you did to the songs on Planetary? Can you just apply all of that to these stems and send it right back to us?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." And he had it done in a day. And then we submitted it, but it was cool because like we went on tour to Europe that summer. And we actually got to go to CD Projekt Red and see the studios and stuff while they were working on Cyberpunk. And we met the composer for the music in that game, who also did the music for The Witcher 3. And it was very cool. And then the game came out and it was just a complete disaster, like unmitigated disaster. They had all the stuff surrounding them about like really like almost like felt like forced labor camps, like with making everybody work like crazy hours on it and stuff. And then the game come out and it like kind of sucked and everyone was bummed, and everyone was like, is that the game you guys have a song in? And we're like, yep. It was just like kind of like hold your head in shame. But like I know they've patched it, and I know that it runs a lot better, and they put out a whole bunch of DLC for it, and kind of, I don't know if they reworked the story at all or not, but like I know it's gotten like a pretty massive overhaul. And
Like to imagine
people,
like you're walking through like CD Projekt Red and like there's just the people playing ping pong instead of working on the game.
no, I mean people seemed hard at work, but it didn't seem like that stressful. But then, all at the same time too, like imagine you're making a game, but you need to optimize it for like 4 or 5 different platforms. Because they're like, this needs to run on PC, it needs to run on PS4 and PS5, and it needs to run on whatever the Xbox equivalents were at the time, right? Like Xbox One. And then I don't know what the new one is, S series. I
Yeah,
haven't owned an
Series X and
Xbox.
Series S and
Yeah, I haven't owned an Xbox since 360, so like I can't keep up with their titles. You know, PlayStation's a lot easier, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, done. But so you know, you kind of feel for them, but you know, I don't know what the music equivalent is. Like, imagine like you put out a record, but the songs were glitched or something, right? And you're like, oh, we'll fix it. It's like, how did you not have this ready? Like, it's kind of crazy. I mean, but anyways, I mean, a video game is a much more intense endeavor than making an album at the end of the day. So I'm not going to sweat them too hard.
I remember. Do you remember Batman Arkham Knight?
Yeah.
Right, I can't remember what the studio was that put them out, but I just want them to know they fucked me, like, because I'm not even joking. Like, I pre-ordered that game, and this is why I never pre-order. And I had my PC, and it was working at the time. And it was glorious, and I was like, you know, I was still in school at the time. Picture this: Nathan gets back from college, excited to play Batman Arkham Knight. Sits down, can't even get past the first fucking cutscene.
Oh my god!
Okay. Like, guess it's just my PC. Spends about 3 hours trying to figure out what's going on. Then he sees like a post on Twitter, and they're like, "Oh no, it's broken for everyone on PC."
It's broken. Yeah.
And you're like, "All right, I'll wait." Then, you know, months go by, and they're like, "We've patched it." And then Nathan's like, "Yes, finally, I get to live my dream of being Batman." Boots up his machine, and his fucking power supply blows.
Oh my god, that
like,
sucks, man.
I was like, fuck this.
Where's the justice?
Well,
it's so mad.
It's funny, like my wife, she's playing Baldur's Gate 3 on her gaming laptop, and I think yesterday and today, I think her game is like collectively between yesterday and today, her game has crashed 15 to 20 times at one point.
God.
And like, you know, so you got to do the thing where it's like, you know, it's like you're not even running the game all that hot. Like, it's not like she's like maxing graphics or anything, right? But it's like you have to look up, like, if you don't know how to like just minimize everything, run it from the actual like execute file instead of through Steam and all that, just to like work around. And like, I don't know, man, like you pay full price for a game like that. Like, you kind of want it to work.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah, there's no excuse like nowadays. I think it's just like companies just pushing to release, like they want it released by this time, and like they'll sacrifice anything, like the game not working, like people's disappointment. It doesn't seem like it's even in the equation. It's just like, you know, getting those initial sales is all that matters to them.
Well, yeah, it's funny. Like, I feel like, you know, I didn't really hear much about Elden Ring until they were like, we made a game and it's gonna come out on whatever date it came out on, right? And it was like, maybe don't tease a record or like a game for like 4 years or whatever until you're ready to be like, no, it's actually going to come out and it's going to be done. You know what I mean? Instead of like pushing back release dates and all that, like just
BioWare left the chat.
Yeah. Yeah, like just do the damn thing. You know what I mean? Like, just make it. But well, whatever. It's like that thing where it's like, I can complain till the cows come home. I'm still going to end up playing all the games. You know what I mean? Like, and they know that. It's like, they just know. It's like, well, no matter what. Like, it's not like people are going to be like, we won't. No one's ever successfully boycotted a video game, I don't think. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, there's always at least a good few thousand fuckers that go, I'm still gonna, I'm gonna play. I'm just not gonna mention anything to my friends. Like,
yeah, for sure.
But honestly, like, it's stuff like that with games and everything like that, like, that really, like, if it's not working, because I work in IT, so like,
okay,
anything that I have to like troubleshoot or like that outside of work, it's one of the reasons why my PC died, and I just went, I'm just gonna get a console. And like, I still have never built a PC since, because if there's anything that needs, like, if it breaks, like a piece of software breaks on my MacBook now,
yeah,
I ain't fixing it for a good few months, because I do it day in, day out at work. So I'm like, if anything outside of work happens, I'm not fucking doing it.
Yeah,
I'll just leave it. So like,
totally understand.
It really sends me up the wall. Why? It's just like, God, I just, what is my only escape from having to do this shit?
No, I hear you. Yeah, it's funny. Like my old computer, like it was just falling apart, and instead of like trying to like fix it or get it, diagnosed, I just was like, I'm just gonna buy a new tower, and then I just can't be bothered. But that's like how like Mac will be like, if your MacBook Air breaks, the solution is you buy a new MacBook Air, right? Like, because I don't think you can really get into those computers much. It feels like I can't remember correctly, but like, yeah,
It's all like glued in. I've had to take one apart
yeah,
before. It's also like everything's glued in. Everything like you can't upgrade RAM because all the RAM is specifically made for the Mac.
that's
So you'd
so
have to buy
crazy.
Mac
Yeah,
RAM. It is for a good reason because everything's like programmed. Every bit of software that you see on a Mac is programmed specifically for the hardware, and
right.
it makes it run so much better, so much cleaner, and so much smoother. Whereas like
Yeah,
PCs, there's drivers in between the hardware and the software. It's very boring, but that's why
yeah.
you get
No, I
like
get you. I
that's
get
why you
you.
get like shit. It's like, oh, why is my graphics really weird on my monitor? Oh, I have to update the graphics
Update your
pack.
driver. Yeah,
Yeah. Whereas you don't have to do that with Mac. So it's
yeah.
there's
That's fair. That's
pros and
fair.
cons to both. One
Totally.
thing that I want to get into as well is what sort of your hobbies and interests outside of the band?
Honestly, man, like most of my hobbies is just playing guitar. That's like kind of all I do with my life, aside from work. But I just play guitar. Take guitar lessons still. I love to play fingerstyle guitar in my personal time, like acoustic and classical. I keep my nails long for that. And I actually recorded a fingerstyle acoustic guitar record this month that I'm just waiting to get mastered, but that'll be something I probably self-release in the next few months, hopefully.
Nice.
Yeah. So I do that. When it's nice out, I love to run. I walk everywhere. I don't drive. I don't know how to drive. So mostly I play guitar and I listen to music. I make coffee for a living at a cafe. It's a very easy job because I've been doing it my whole adult life. And what else do I like to do? No, that's like kind of it, man. And I play video games. Like when I'm not working on music, I play video games as like a form of like escapism. And that's my life in a nutshell. I'm a very boring person. I don't go out that much. It's funny, like my wife is from the United States and she's lived here with me in Canada for like 2 years now. And she's better at living here than I am. Like she goes out more, she has more friends than me. It's perfect. Like it's really worked out.
You're brewing coffee, brewing riffs.
Yeah, like that's it. That's like all I'm good for at this point. So I just sort of lean into it.
I think you're underselling yourself there, man. Like you've created some fucking masterpieces recently. I've
Well,
got one last
cheers.
question for you.
Yeah,
So if you were trapped, we might as well do both bands for this. So if you were trapped with both Dream Unending and also Two Mold in a zombie apocalypse, which member would you be least reliant on, and which member would you be most reliant on, and why?
yeah. Fuck, I think Justin would be more resourceful in Dream Unending. I think in Tumult we would just kind of see it and be like, we should just like, you know, uh joint suicide out of this. You know what I mean? I think we'd be like, we can't handle it. Like let's just cut our losses. I think I'd have an easier time with Justin. I think we would have an easier time of assuring each other that we might be able to survive for at least the day. I think Tumult, we would just be like, nah, fuck it, we're out.
Yeah.
I love that answer because it's like the two mode. I've just got an image of all you guys in like a room going, we all doing this?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
And everyone's like, we're all in agreement, guys. Like,
just like, I'll shoot you, you shoot him, and you shoot me. 1, 2, 3, go. You know what I mean? I think that's how it would work out.
Just a hive mind, like we've all come to the same conclusion.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, wow, we're fucked. Okay, cool. Let's just do it.
And your Dream Unending guys coming like, maybe we shouldn't.
No,
and you've got like the choice paths then, which one you want to go down.
Yeah, I think he'd be a little bit more optimistic.
That's awesome, man. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Honestly, it's been amazing.
Thank you, guys.
Hearing
This
about the
was great.
story of Starpath, like hearing about Two Mold and just how it all links together. But
yeah.
it's been amazing. I'm excited to get back to the record and I think when we do these, it's always cool to like listen to how it got made, how the lyrics came together, like the whole process, and like it just makes you appreciate the album even more. So thank you.
Agreed, man. Thank you so much. Thanks for making the time, guys.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to like listen to the EP with friends and then be like, did you know?
Yeah, there you
Because
go.
we've
Yeah.
learned so much, and it's been great having you on. Like we said at the beginning, like me and Brad have been a massive fan of both your bands for such a long time that we
Oh,
like
cheers.
when we found out we got this interview, we were genuinely so excited for it.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad I didn't disappoint.
Yeah, honestly, in the
Yeah.
space of 2 years, like, Starpath, the last Dream Unending album, last Two Mill album, like, all this together, like, not many people can create that many masterpieces in the space of 2 years. So honestly, you should be proud, man.
Bless your heart. Bless your heart.
No, that for the last 2 years before most episodes, whenever you guys have had a release, it's been me and Brad good. Check out the new Dream Unending. It's like, check out the new Two Mill. Yep.
Awesome, guys. All right.
All right, thank you so much, and take care.
You take care. Bye bye.